Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew from Tulip Valley, and I am joined by my special friend, Rebecca Skrinde from Helping Hands Food Bank. Hello, Rebecca.
Good morning.
And I will refer to you as Becky because you are old school Becky to me. That's right, friend.
Yeah.
So Becky and I go way back to what did we decide? At least LaVenture back in middle school.
Yep.
And so we are old friends solving new problems and loving the same people, many of the same people in the same place that we grew up, which is an uncommon opportunity for both of us. So super excited about that. Becky, would you introduce yourself to our audience and talk a little about yourself and your organization and why you're so stinking important for the welfare of our community?
Well, my mom does think I'm very important. I am born and raised in Skagit County, class of 94 from Mount Vernon, which is doing amazing work in this valley or everywhere. Went into the military for 11 years and then decided to come home after a little soul searching and a son. So came back to the valley. Worked in heavy kind of logistics, transportation, and then ended up at the food bank. It was kind of my goal to work inside food and serving my community, kind of how, your mind in the military is service before self, and that's really important to me. And I'm honored and a privilege to be the CEO here at Helping Hands. It's grown quite a bit in April is my 8th year being here. We built buildings. We've gone from 4 staff or 1 staff to 12 staff now, and lots of programs. And, Helping Hands is more than just a food bank. We call it the Solution Center out here because it's about meeting people where they're at. So we're not judging them where they're currently at. We do believe the best in people and that people are whole. Mm-hmm. And what we're working with them is asking them why they need to come to the food bank as a whole, complete person. So nobody's broken. They just need some maybe navigation, or they need some help and support. And most of the time we're realizing they don't even know what's available. So like one great story that's been kind of percolating is that we went to the sheriff's department and said, how can we help you? Because what we're hearing is that they go on welfare calls in East County or somewhere, and it's not an emergency. It's not a threat to the community. It's not criminal, but the person just needs help and they don't know where to go. And so we've had calls where they showed up and there's a 82-year-old lady living in a not very good situation, and they just need help and a team to come in and support that person, because a deputy, that's not really their job. So yes, we're food, but we're working on going beyond food and really working on the whys. Why is there food insecurity in the community?
Right. No, and I want to so that's an excellent example, because the thought that's going through my mind is really, I think the only place that is more difficult to do innovation in terms of so government would be the hardest. And a hot second behind that is nonprofits, right? Because it's so much, there's so much structure, for lack of a better term, or expectations, and really you have in 8 short years blown that out of the water. I mean, really, your organization, Helping Hands, is synonymous with innovation and doing things differently, and not taking the status quo as the standard, but really saying that there are some things that are worth exploring.
And I think that comes with just talking to people. And talking to the people that need the services. We don't sit in a boardroom with a bunch of fancy people and talk about what we want to do. What we do is we get out there in the rain and we go to people's homes and we call them on the phone and say, as a participant of the food bank or the need of the food bank, what can we do for you and what can we support you in? Tuesday, we bought lunch at the Mount Vernon Senior Center and asked people, like, what's the biggest need for seniors? And John Janicki's calling me right now, but he's gonna have to wait.
Yeah. So, there you go. I got to your first before you're board president.
Exactly. And we found that house cleaning, and we have an intern who is getting ready to get out of the program, and she wants to go into kind of this home care. And we're like, what if she did home care and house cleaning for these seniors?
Very
And
cool.
we build her own business, and or help her build her own business, and she becomes her own boss, and the empowerment that is with. So we're talking to people to find the gaps. That doesn't come in a board meeting. That innovation, which seems common sense, but it is innovative to go out to the world to say, what do you need? Not what I think I want to do and what I'm comfortable doing.
Well, and it gets to fine if it's common sense, but if it's not common practice, then it's not going to change people's lives, right? And I think that's what I love about the Helping Hands culture, is that it really, at the end of the day, everyone wants to look back and say, how do we make things better?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's iconic for your organization. And then, certain kudos for quarterbacking that and continue to expand and do things that haven't been done. So let's talk about things that haven't been done before. We have a neighbors night. We're partnering.
Yeah.
Tulip Valley Farms is partnering with go ahead, run with it.
Well, we were talking about the best way to really connect our participants with the tulips, because there is a inequity when it comes to those who can participate in big events and things like that. And so when you and I were talking about it, it was like, you offered up a night where it's free to the public, and, do whatever you basically said, do whatever you want. And we are turning it into a bit of a fundraiser, but it's open to the public for free. And our goal is to really meet people one-on-one and talk to them about the needs of the food bank. And there will be some raffles that we can give out. There will be food on donation base. We got Skagit Best Potatoes, donated all the potatoes that we could possibly want. And so it's fairly inexpensive, and it's just our way of kind of giving back to the community that we support anyway. And we have flyers all over, and I'm really hoping that our participants really get out there and kind of have some fun with and feel like maybe normalized, because it does seem to be that year over year things get expensive, and right now people are hurting. And I think this is going to be fun, and it's going to be fun to see. Right now, we already have 250 people RSVP'd for it, which, man, we could have at least 1,000 or probably 1,500.
Yeah, let's add a zero. We'll add a zero between now and it's April 20th.
Exactly.
So we'll be
April
out there.
20th, 4 to 7, and there'll be food and music and raffles, and we're going to have a couple of our partners there. We're going to have Children of the Valley there. We're going to have, because we work with those families and give them food boxes weekly. We work with Chinook Enterprises is going to be out there talking about how we've had interns, their interns come and volunteer for us and do job training there at the building. We're going to have Washington Vocational Services there, because again, it's job training, and it's a unique clientele. A lot of organizations that are working with adults with handicapable, nobody really opens their arms and says, come, please do your work. It's really difficult for them to find places to do job training. And it feels like one of the best things that Helping Hands does, because I love seeing their faces when they've done a good job, and the growth that is in those kids, those growing adults. My favorite story is Morgan. She's blind, and nobody would allow her. She's in the YES program, and nobody wanted her to be at their workspace. And we said yes, and they downloaded some software on her computers, and she was literally checking clients in. Like, wow. She was, and people loved her, and she sings, and we're so blessed and privileged to have the yes mentality versus no, no, we can't do that. And they make me stronger. Those kids make me just want to be here because of their attitudes. And so they're going to be there. And we have a few more partners that we support that are there to share how we work together and how we support each other.
I love that you said that you're and these I love these parallels. Like, so you are the nonprofit that says yes, right? You're willing to try. Always. Because this is not without risk, right? Things that haven't been done before. So talk us through what that's like as a CEO of a nonprofit that a lot of people think hand out, cans of, canned food to starving people. That's not what you do. That's not why you do it. And certainly, for somebody who would say, what business does Helping Hands Food Bank have in brokering an on-farm experience for somebody that might not be able to afford it? What say ye to that?
Well, one of our main beliefs is that, like I said, everybody's a whole person. So when they walk in the door, they're whole. And we don't look at them as broken or poor or any of the, derogatory words that we could possibly use. So when they come to the food bank and they're, making good choice, they can make any choices, but they've chosen a good choice of just coming to the food bank. We honor that fact and we thank them for being there. And we look at them and, hey, what brought you here today? And there's always a list. Today I'm getting some information on one of our participants wants to start their own business. And I'm like, sweet, here is a way that you can do that. And let's get you an advocate. Let's find another program that will walk you through the whole process. And why not?
Right.
I mean, it's the right thing to do, because if we want to put ourselves out of business someday, it's going to take everybody doing 1,000, 100,000 different things. There's no cookie cutter way of solving poverty. It has to come from, this is good for this person, this is good for this person. And then there might be some, people who are dealing with addiction or homelessness. There might be some fallbacks, like I'm here today and oops, I kind of fell back. But I always joke with people, I have been on a diet for, my son is 21 years old and I've been losing that baby weight for 21 years. Like it's a cycle, it's okay. It's not the end of the world that you're where you're at. Let's just refocus and get back to where we need to be. And I'm lucky to have a board that really loves the idea that we're solving problems and not like just handing out a bag of bread, and which is fine. There's food, there's places that just hand out food, and that is okay. That's fine. But I've been lucky to have donors and board members and staff that want to ask that question, why? And it blows my mind what a pair of boots going back to a job, that's all it took.
Right.
Sometimes it's so simple. It's not even, it's like, you've waited 5 years for your DD Form 214, which is your military, I got out of the military form and I got it in 2 days, and you've been waiting 5 years for it. Like, that just makes me feel like, geez, if that what lost 5 years did we have, right?
That person's veterans benefits have been riding on that, and without having someone to help them quarterback that, or at least navigate that path, that's pretty remarkable. And
if you have the skill.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's kind of like you, Andrew, we've taught a lot of conversation around when you have a skill set that people need, it's an honor and privilege to give that skill set to someone that betters their life. Like it's hard to sit at home with a skill set that you can help people and just not do it. So it feels like it's just it's so easy, and so it's not easy, but it's easier to choose to help people than it is to just sit there and go, we're just handing out food today.
Right. Well, and it's about, to me, it really gets back to no one will ever say Andrew's superpower is growing tulips, right? It's something that I do, but my superpower is in visioning and in really creating teams and connecting people, right? No, and that is the whole thing. Connection is my crop. Tulips are the plant. But connection is a crop, and that drives significance and feeling, and success is, we we can land on success between our ears, but ultimately what we do for other people is what makes it significant. And that's what I really like about the partnership between Helping Hands and Tulip Valley Farms, is that we're both in the significance business. You know,
Yeah.
you're not in the business of handing out food, and I'm not in the business of growing flowers, right? We are in the business of making lives better for people who want to participate, right? And be that what it may. So click on that for us. Like, what is it about that significance that you really, that gets you out of bed? What you do and your organization does for your entire team. What is it? Can you put a point on a couple of ideas about what it is that really has helped you to grow out of the idea of, you know, throwing cans of food off of a loading dock at people and moving on with their lives? You know, your hunger is not your business. You know,
No.
quality of life is your business. So
First of all, we get to see the impact.
Mhm.
I mean, we're directly seeing that impact when someone comes to you and says, you changed my life. So yes, those stories follow me every day, especially on the hard days. But also there's this little piece of me that, I don't know how to say this without being a little awkward or whatever, is when you're doing things that are hard but it's like outside what we call the norm, and other people are seeing this, wow, they're really making an impact, and it fuels them to be better and to maybe say, hey, let's look at our internal processes. And it's hard at first because you feel like the lone wolf and everybody's going, wait, I kind of liked it the way it was. But when you're seeing that kind of impact, that fuels me personally to go, if I can make a difference outside by like firing people up to keep working harder in their own nonprofits or businesses or whatever, I like that. So I guess it's influence, like, without being like, I don't want to be a king or a queen, but I like that there's some influence where I could say, hey, no, these people are more than just the hungry sitting in the dirt. These are real humans, and there's that influence that kind of keeps me going too on those hard days.
Well, and I think there's the aspect, you know, of there are life sustaining of programs that you have, right? And that's keeping people alive by calories, right? But then there's so many other threads of goodness that spring from Helping Hands in terms of your ability to help people navigate the next step, right? People don't have to have the whole life figured out, but if they are uncomfortable with where they're at and they want to make a step in another direction, you have created a structure and a framework around that is uncommon in your industry, right? With the Solution Center. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, as you're talking about that, you know, it's easy to give examples. So I'm sitting at the, there's a homeless gal or unhoused woman in Anacortes, and I take her to get her ID, and we're sitting there, and they wouldn't give her an ID until I walked up and said, hey, she's in our program, I'm the CEO, and the lady gave it her ID to her because she needed the ID to be in the winter shelter. They would not let her in unless she had her ID. So as we were talking, because we were waiting, I'm like, what do you want to, like, if you could do anything, what would you do? And she's like, that's a good question. I need to start with my GED, but it costs money. I'm like, oh girl, that's free. Like, come on. That is beyond free. I could think of 3 people right now who would take care of that. I mean, there's programs for that. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then what? Bring it on. Give me something harder. And she's like, well, I want to be a diesel mechanic. And I'm like, well, my husband is one and my daughter wants to be one. So I know exactly the process, and that's free because as a female diesel mechanic, trust me, they're dying for people to be diesel mechanic, and they'll send you to school. And I'm like, give me something hard. And so in my mind, it's like, I don't know that was what she was thinking. Like, I had no idea that could be such a simple solution. I've known that because that's part of my life. But if someone who is what we call maybe at their lowest point, and they just want things that are so easy, yet they think they're so hard. And it's like, all you are is a connector of ideas and process. Like you're not even like, give me something hard. Like,
Yeah.
I did get something hard the other day and I'm like, oof, I don't know about that one, but
Careful what you ask
that's
for,
when you
Becky.
call Rotary. That's when you call a service club and say, hey, go take care of that for us. But,
Which is also a
and
fruit of your connections, right? I mean, if
yeah,
not everybody gets to make that phone call that has that connection to be able to connect with the service organizations like Rotary, and they know that you're not calling out of because it's you're don't have anything else to do.
we don't ask unless we absolutely need. And it's really connecting. You know, we see ourselves like you always talk about being a catalyst of ideas. And part of that is I think that the true story is not being told of hunger, of poverty, of whatever. We see this kind of like social media driven kind of either I don't know exactly what to call it, but this thing that's different than the reality. And so everybody thinks it's a bunch of lots of addiction. It's actually families and seniors and the blind and all kinds of people that are unhoused and struggling. And so telling the true story really does change the way people kind of perceive, oh, well, the reality in Skagit is that hunger is real. And
Yeah.
you're like, absolutely. Like I've been to see some farmers in the last couple of weeks and I'm blown away by their stresses. You know, it's like the food system is not strong enough to have this huge expectation that we're going to feed every person that needs extra food in the county. And so the pressure is on the food bank, the pressure is on like Meals on Wheels, the pressure is on kitchens that like churches that the Friendship House and the farmers to like give all that they possibly can, yet we're all stressed. And then that's when we tell that story. And then it's like, how does the rest of the community step in where they can and say, let us help you with that stress?
Right.
So part of that is sharing that story of most people want to see kind of a timeline of success, right? They walked in the door, needed food, got them the food, we stabilized them there. Then we got DSHS started because it was a senior who lost like maybe something expired or whatever. And then we're working through that process. And then all of a sudden, they don't need to be at the food bank anymore because we've worked them through whatever issues they have. And then that is the measure of success for most people. It isn't for us, but when we're talking to donors, that measure of success is that they don't need us anymore, or government kind of like food stamps and things like that. So
right.
We're trying to share those stories, and the only way to do that is through that like hands-on, one-on-one time with those people.
Right. Excellent.
Did that answer that question?
Absolutely. No, we nailed it. No, I think that's well said. What about now? We can come back around to this, the idea of innovation in rural services, right? And so we know that there are, the needs, there are common needs across our society that shift into, I don't want to say everything is hard. They just shift to a different level in terms of our rural communities. So the access to care, access to services, for East County residents is different than down in the Delta, and being down in the Delta is not even easy. So what is it that,
Right.
Helping Hands is expand, like you mentioned that you're in Anacortes, you go from Anacortes to Marble Mount, right? I mean, and that's 100 miles, maybe just shy of 100 miles probably. I mean, Highway 20 is the most beautiful, and it's the outdoor recreational corridor that nobody really talks about and there are a lot of us that live here, right? And so a lot of the urban pressures that have, I don't want to say they've not caused, but they're certainly reason for some of the exacerbating circumstances that we have in our community specific to housing. There's a great job centers, but there's the rate of change outside of Skagit County is also kind of a compounding element to why life is so hard for a segment of our citizenry here in Skagit County. What would you say to somebody who wants who is unsettled with that, and also wants to do more than just wave their wallet? And then certainly, donations are resources are invaluable. They're actually very valuable. But what would you say to somebody that wanted to actually get and do some lifting in that space?
So recently I've had a couple people go, I know I have a skill set to help. I just don't know where I fit in or how much time capacity I have. And it's really exploring what part of it, what are they really meaning? And it's like, I look at their face and go, what do you want to see as an outcome? Like, what if you could, and they may not know everything, but then it really triggers a conversation of like, well, I was listening to this thing, or I was reading this book, and it just touched me in a way that I need to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, so how do we work on what does that mean? And so I don't really always know for each person what that means until something comes up. And then it's like, okay, what about this? And what about that? And starting out by just touring the facility. Come and see what we do. Like, what does the food look like? Who are the people coming in the door? All the children. We have 50% of our clientele are adults.
Right.
The other 50% are seniors.
Coordinator for this, right? So this isn't one of those just like show up on a random Thursday and knock on the door and say, Becky said that I could come in. So for somebody there's like, you know what, I want to know more. So I'm going to, and then what? So very first
connect
step
with
is,
us.
To
connect with us directly and say, I want to know more. And our website is great. There's lots of ways to connect. There's a donate button, but there's also a volunteer button.
Love that.
And there's also just a contact button. And then just get to know and maybe explore what your biases are. You know, what do you think? And have that conversation of like, well, I truly believe that if I've had people tell me this is, if people weren't on drugs, the food banks wouldn't be open. And that's just understanding the true story of what we're serving. Right. And then you get to the next level of what community, because Marble Mount has what I'm working with them on their community hall and trying to figure out how to like revitalize, because it is kind of starting to fall down and we need to get it repaired. And there's no leadership out there. So when you look at who's your leadership in really rural communities, and the fact that there's only consensus 300 people that live there, which is more like twice as much if the census didn't count. And is it relevant to spend money on 300 people when you have 3,000 people down here, or 11,000 people in Cedar Woolley? And I've had a debate with a congressperson about that. Is like, we got to get away from the number. Like, the bigger number is more important than the reality of like, but it's still 80% of the town that goes to the food bank up there instead of 25% of the town down here. So looking at the numbers differently, but connecting, like just when we need, there's bills going through Olympia right now. They're going to directly affect food through feeding kids at school and the food banks, and getting involved with, when we're posting things on Facebook that talks about call your senators and say this is what we need. This is the bill and this is what it needs to urgently be pushed through. Do that kind of stuff if that's as much as you feel comfortable doing on your computer. But coming out here and connecting with us and volunteering or just talking to us, we usually kind of leave people a little star-eyed going, oh my gosh, like the sheriff's department when we went out there and we told them all the things that we have done. I said, but there's stuff we can do that we don't even know we can do yet because it's just never come up. Right. He's like, we had no idea. And it had this, like, his shoulders went down, like there was this release of stress going, our deputies are so overwhelmed with what's out there that isn't like criminal. It's like leaving people in places that are unsafe. And if your team can kind of go in there where it's safe enough because it's not criminal, and help people really change their lives, then those connections are the ones that are long-term, and it helps the deputies not have, like, I didn't have to leave an 80-year-old woman in a, a dirty house, like a hazmat situation with no food and electricity, because it's not criminal.
Right.
They don't want to walk away from that either.
Right.
So,
Right. Oh no, that's a really, I mean, talk about that. That is a really hard day for someone with no solutions. If it's just, well, we're at the end of my
like, bye.
right. But to
I
be
would
able to
never
have,
be able to leave.
yeah, psychologically, that's got to be torturous, and to be able to have that, to create that that tool, or that, or really that solution set for local partners, now you're partnering with the sheriff's department. So I will say another way people can come and learn more about Helping Hands Food Bank that doesn't involve a trip out to Cedar Woolley is to come out and meet you and your team and members of your board at Neighbors Night at Tulip Valley. That's right. And so the two for on that, or the three for on that, or the totality of goodness that is going to be involved in Neighbors Night is that you get to see what makes this iconic beauty for Skagit Valley in the tulips. Right, it's what we're known for. So because it's what we're known for, this natural beauty, we're going to take this scene and move into the things that we like, the differences that we want to make. So on Neighbors Night, yes, the doors are thrown open. Our hearts and gates are open to the public, and we look forward to having as many and as long a conversations about things we can do as a community to make it better as possible, while we enjoy this tremendous beauty that is by then will be spectacular. So we got that going for us. Becky, anything that we didn't cover that you want to share with our listeners?
Just be curious. I want all of the people that listen to this just to be curious. It's a lot of time people go, "Oh, Becky, what you do is so amazing," and it feels almost like, well, I want people to be curious of why it even needs to happen. Like, I love to hear that. I love to hear why are you growing? Why are you busier? And I want people to really know the truth of what's going on here in hunger and the struggles that food banks have and other things. So, own it and understand what your food bank does, and just ask the question, and that's what we're here for. So, and come to Neighbors Night.
There you have it.
I'll be there.
Our community is better because of the work that you and your team do, and my life is richer because of your friendship. So thank you so much for joining me on this podcast and for sharing your love and light with so many people across the community. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Bye, friend.
All right, everyone. I'm Andrew, and this has been Tulip Valley Talks with my good friend Rebecca Skrinde from Helping Hands Solution Center / Food Bank / just the purveyor of all things wonderful that need to happen in Skagit County. We're so very, very grateful for your time spending with us. So enjoy your day.